All right, let's dive straight into this explainer and unpack the fascinating mechanics of Philippine election law. When we look at a nation's legal structure, it is incredibly easy to get bogged down in abstract concepts. But election law, that is where the rubber truly meets the road. It's the actual, functioning democratic machine that translates the theoretical will of the people into the hard reality of governance. Today, we're going to look at the exact gears and levers that make this whole system hum. Now, this specific quote from Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution sets our absolute foundation. Think about it. Election laws aren't just bureaucratic red tape or boring administrative hurdles. They are the literal mechanisms that give this constitutional quote its teeth. Without functional election laws, the idea that government authority emanates from the people, well, that's just nice poetry. But with these laws, it becomes actionable, undeniable power. To really understand this democratic machine, we're going to break it down top to bottom across 5 key areas. Number 1, the power of suffrage. 2, running for public office. 3, fair campaigns and accountability. 4, settling election disputes. And 5, a global democratic framework. Let's get right into it.
Starting with Section 1, the power of suffrage.
So let's start with the fuel for this entire machine, the voters themselves. Because before you can even have elected officials, you've got to define exactly who holds the power to put them there. The requirements to vote in the Philippines are elegantly simple. A voter must be at least 18 years old, have resided in the Philippines for at least 1 year, and have lived in the specific place where they propose to vote for at least 6 months immediately preceding the election. But honestly, what's equally important here is what is not required. The Constitution expressly and strictly forbids imposing any literacy, property, or other substantive requirement on voting. You don't need to own land, and you don't need a fancy degree. It is designed to be a fundamental baseline of total equality.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how inclusive the law really strives to be. Through the Overseas Absentee Voting Act, qualified Filipinos living abroad, the entire global diaspora, can still participate in their nation's future. Meanwhile, on the flip side, jurisprudence and election rules extend the right to vote to detainees. As long as a person hasn't been convicted by final judgment, they absolutely retain their political rights. The law is literally reaching out to ensure maximum participation across the board.
Moving right along to Section 2, running for public office.
Let's look at the next gear in our machine. The rules for the folks actually seeking the power to govern. Just as there are rules for voters, there's a super strict framework for candidates. You can't just stand on a soapbox and declare yourself a candidate, right? You need a formal document called a Certificate of Candidacy, or COC. Now, the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, generally has a ministerial duty to receive these COCs. That essentially means, on the surface, if you submit the paperwork, they have to take it. But, and this is a big but, receiving the form does not mean you're guaranteed a spot on the ballot. COMELEC still acts as a crucial gatekeeper to protect election integrity.
In fact, COMELEC can totally deny due course to or entirely cancel a COC. Why would they do that? Well, primarily if a candidate makes a material misrepresentation, which is a polite way of saying they lied about a crucial qualification on their form. They can also cancel a COC if an applicant is officially declared a nuisance candidate. That's someone who filed merely to cause confusion or who honestly has zero bona fide intention to actually run. Plus, the law doesn't let candidates just swap in and out whenever they feel like it. There are tightly regulated rules governing both the substitution and withdrawal of candidates to prevent ballot manipulation.
Now, a really crucial point here revolves around the complexities of citizenship. The Philippines completely recognizes dual citizenship under Republic Act 9225. You can retain dual citizenship in your private life, no problem. But running for office? That's a completely different story. The Constitution dictates that dual allegiance is inimical to the national interest, so candidates who reacquired Philippine citizenship must execute a personal, sworn renunciation of any and all foreign citizenship before they can validly run for elective public office. Basically, you cannot serve two masters when you're aiming to lead the nation.
Which brings us to Section 3, fair campaigns and accountability.
Once the candidates are locked in and verified, how exactly does the law maintain a level playing field during the race itself? Well, it steps in with some serious financial regulations. Money is obviously the great destabilizer in elections, so there are outright prohibitions on premature campaigning and rigid limitations on campaign expenses. To enforce all of this, Republic Act No. 7166 mandates the filing of a Statement of Contributions and Expenses, commonly known as a SOC. This mandatory financial filing tracks every single peso coming in and going out, which ensures candidates don't just buy their way to victory beyond the established legal limits.
But here's the thing. The democratic machine doesn't just shut down the day after the election.
If a winning official loses the public's trust, the law provides an incredibly powerful safety valve known as recall. This is a direct accountability mechanism that actually allows the registered voters of a local government unit to step in and remove an elective local official simply for a loss of confidence, even before their official term expires. It's a constant, lingering reminder that the power truly remains with the people.
Next up, Section 4, Settling Election Disputes. Naturally, in a high-stakes environment like politics, results get challenged all the time. But what happens when a race is disputed? Who actually makes the final call? Well, the system relies on a pretty complex matrix of referees, and it depends entirely on the office in question. Comelec exercises exclusive original jurisdiction over all contests for elective regional, provincial, and city officials. But for municipal officials, trial courts of general jurisdiction step in first, with Comelec holding appellate power. Down at the very granular barangay level, limited courts take the initial lead. And finally, for members of Congress, the Senate Electoral Tribunal and the House of Representatives Electoral Tribunal serve as the absolute sole judges of all contests relating to their own members. It's like a giant puzzle of jurisdiction.
There's also a very strict timeline to keep in mind here, which was clarified by Supreme Court jurisprudence in landmark cases like Lazatin versus HRET and Angziaco Reyes versus Comelec. The timeline is cleanly divided. Before a winner is officially declared, like during pre-proclamation controversies or COC cancellations, Comelec is the referee. But an electoral tribunal only acquires jurisdiction once a candidate has been validly proclaimed, has taken the proper oath, and has formally assumed office. They literally pass the baton the exact moment the official crosses that specific threshold into office.
And finally, Section 5, a global democratic framework.
To wrap up our understanding of this whole system, let's zoom out a bit and see how this domestic law intersects with the rest of the world. Because Philippine election law definitely does not exist in a vacuum. The Philippines is a state party to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, or the ICPR. This international framework guarantees every citizen the right to vote and to be elected at genuine periodic elections. So that constitutional mandate we discussed earlier, the Overseas Absentee Voting Act, isn't just some domestic policy. It's direct, tangible proof of the state honoring its international human rights obligations, ensuring its diaspora can participate on a global scale.
And this brings us to a really beautiful synthesis of everything we've looked at today. The election law performs this delicate, fascinating balancing act. It navigates the complexities of private international law by enthusiastically embracing the political rights of global Filipinos through absentee voting, while at the exact same time fiercely protecting national sovereignty from foreign influence by demanding candidates renounce dual allegiance. It is a highly calibrated, incredibly thoughtful machine.
So, we've broken down the mechanics, right? From the basic requirements of suffrage all the way up to the highest electoral tribunals, and even its place on the global stage. Knowing the incredible, intricate machinery that has been meticulously built to protect and facilitate your right to choose your leaders, the final question I want to leave you with is this: how are you going to use it? Think about how your single vote shapes the nation's sovereignty today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning how the systems around you really work.